Hey, everybody, welcome back to today's Market Explained. It's the original four-star podcast and media event. And we've been at this now for 7 years. We're up, I think, 170 episodes. So we're looking forward to a really interesting, robust discussion today. And we're going to talk about the insurance market. Most financial advisors do some insurance, but they don't really work in the auto home marketplace. There's a lot of really interesting changes happening there. So we have an expert on today. His name is Dave Broz, and he's a good friend of mine. And Dave is going to talk to us a little bit about home and auto. And there's a lot of weird things happening too, if I might add, in that market. So Dave's going to try and share those with us. So Dave, welcome to the four-star Today's Market Explained.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate your invite.
So glad to have you. And now we all know there's insurance firms that do auto, home, life. Dave, what motivated you to found your firm? Your firm is called Railside Citrus, and maybe you can tell us what that means. But tell us all about why you started this firm instead of just going to Allstate or something like that.
Oh, sure. So we're an independent insurance agency. That means we go directly to a whole bunch of different insurance companies, some bigger ones that advertise a lot that you've probably heard of, and then some smaller boutique insurance industry players who specialize in certain niches and things like that. The citrus is for our tagline, protecting the fruits of your labor. And our offices happen to be located near railroad tracks, both of them. And so the name kind of belies our goal, which is, take care of everyone. And going independent, I found, gives us more options for our customers. I see more and more every day, especially when it comes to the business insurance. The entrepreneurial spirit is leading into so many different business opportunities. And a lot of the insurance companies, it's a square peg, square hole situation. And the more options we have for people, the better chance we have to give them what they want. And really, it's become the same thing on the home and auto insurance as well. So being independent is a great way to be as an insurance agent. I went into this industry because I like helping other people. And, after a
Right.
lot of, our customers are having a bad day, something has happened that they didn't foresee. That's unfortunate. And it feels good to be there and help them out. It really does. It's a great industry to be in if you find yourself looking for something to do and you consider yourself a natural helper. This is a great place to make a living. So
Excellent. So you're a pretty experienced guy, Dave. Obviously, you have your own shop. So
yep.
what are some of the key factors that people would want to think about when they would choose a shop like yours or, a captive shop like an Allstate or something like that?
Sure. I think the number one thing for you to consider is how you like to buy insurance. What is the experience that you're really looking for? So there are some people who are really into the do-it-yourself aspect of life. And for them, going with an online provider where they can do their own insurance, at any time of the day is great. They may just want to call, a toll-free number and have someone else take care of it. And that might be the way they want to experience insurance. They may not be comfortable buying from an independent agent who may suggest to them an insurance company they've never heard of. And we do that quite often where we'll say, we've met with you. You've given us your goals, the things that you think are important. Now we're showing you an insurance company you've never heard of. And they've been in business since the 1800s, right? We know they're A-rated and you've just never heard of them. And you can't get comfortable with it. So if you're not ready to kind of have that kind of experience, sometimes working with an independent insurance agent can put you outside of your comfort zone. We're a very hands-on agency. We like to talk on the phone. We like to call people. We like to go visit them. If we're writing your business insurance, we're probably going to come out and see you in person, right? See your facility, things like that. Some people really want that big name brand experience. It brings them comfort. And even if they, may not have all the options there of going with, as you mentioned, like a direct writer that can only show them one option, that's the most important thing to them. So I would say the number one thing as a buyer is just understand what's going to make you comfortable, right? Because nowadays, a lot of the insurance companies are really good at what they do. Most of them truly do want to pay claims. And I think that's been a byproduct of the internet where people can share feedback, a lot more readily and things like that. Consumer ratings are easy to come by. So just what are you comfortable with that? And that would, I think, guide you to how to select an agent.
So Dave, you work with businesses and individuals. So
Yep.
how do you handle risk management strategy for like mid-sized businesses or public entities as well? I know there's a bunch that you
Sure.
work with. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, great question. For public entities, we insure a lot of fire districts, smaller public entities, medium-sized entities are great customers for us. We do host workshops, for example, for fire chiefs to help teach them things that they might not be aware of from a risk management standpoint, um, helping them get in touch with government agencies if there's line of duty incidents, things like that, providing them with additional tools to do their jobs. And then when we meet with them, one on one, we're going to look at their operational structure and be available to take calls when they're, tasked with a tough decision. They know they can call someone like us who has the experience, who works with a variety of public entities, and just ask us, what do we do in this situation? And
Mhm.
so we kind of do the same thing with the personal insurance as well. We encourage our clients to call us before they make decisions, whether it's buying a car, whether it's buying a new house, any of those major things. We want people to reach out to us, and then if they're willing to give us a little time, we'll explain all the different things they should take into account so they can make their decision. So,
So on the individual side, what's the approach you use to helping people? Like, how do you decide what's the right thing for them in the insurance world, whether it be home, auto, whatever it might be?
sure. Yeah. Going back to what I was mentioning a few minutes ago about, name brand recognition, we do work with some bigger insurance companies. So when we sit down with an individual, with a family, trying to figure out what's important to them, we're going to look at the coverages, of course, but then we'll have that conversation about, how do you like to pay? Some people, for example, want to pay the whole year up front. Okay. So we might ask them if they would be comfortable with a company that offers a paid in full discount as opposed to a company that does not give them a big discount for paying up front. Try and, uncover those types of things. It could be as small as, how do you like to pay? Some people don't want to pay for the full year up front. They want to do automatic payments. Some people want that big name brand, which we offer. Some people want a certain billing experience. So we kind of go through and ask them what they want. With all the
Mhm.
different insurance companies we work with, it's usually easy to find someone there. And now sometimes what we do come across is we may have a list from a client, we'd like A, B, and C, and then we're still going to do our due diligence. We may have another company that can't do A, B, and C, but they do all the other things really well. And it could be billing. And so we could have a situation where we're going to show two proposals. This is what you actually wanted. This is one we'd like you to consider for these other reasons, just so you're still educated and let you make the choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's good to know, and it's a good process. So let's get into it now, Dave. On some serious questions about
Sure.
a lot of weird things happening in the insurance market, home and auto. What is going on in the insurance market right now? Can you kind of give us the latest scoop?
There's two big things that are happening at the same time. The first one is that our industry is going through a huge generational shift.
Mm.
There's an enormous number of insurance agencies that are selling. The owners are retiring, and our industry has become an industry mostly staffed by older folks who are getting close to the end of their career, and we haven't had a lot of younger people moving into our industry. So what does that mean for consumers? As these agency owners retire and they sell their business, consumers actually end up with less choices. So think about it. There's big national firms that are consolidating and they're scooping up all of the little local agencies. So if, as each one of these agency owners retires or sells, consumers really lose out because they lose a different voice, they lose a different opinion, they lose a different service model. So you may like working with an insurance agency a certain way. They sell to a big national consolidator, and that way of doing business with them is no longer there. So that's on one hand what's happening in our industry that consumers will see at a Main Street level. Names are changing on signs, people are retiring. On the other side, the insurance industry is going through a very tough financial situation right now where we've got a confluence of economic factors that people are familiar with, supply chain issues, inflation, things like that, that are pushing up claims and making claims more expensive. Since COVID, driving has been bad. Anyone who's been out on the road since COVID probably knows that drivers are worse than ever. And we're seeing this spill over to fatalities. If you look at the DOT reports, you'll see that traffic fatalities are up, even though people are driving less miles on the whole. And then weather trends. You've probably seen it in the news, all the weather events that have happened. All these things are happening at the same time. And so what you have to understand as a consumer is that the insurance industry is a lagging indicator of the economy. You take a look at a homeowner's policy, for example, or a business insurance policy that you've purchased that lasts for a whole year. Unlike a gas station or grocery store where you're going to see fluctuating prices as their costs change, the insurance industry can't do that, right? They give you a quote, maybe a month, 2 months before the insurance policy takes place. It's locked in for a year. And then some of these policies have a tail that goes a couple months beyond that. And so this life cycle of a policy can be 12 months, 16, 18 months long. And the insurance company is really locked in on the price they've given you and the promise they've made to pay these claims. In the meantime, in the background, what you don't see, all these economic factors are changing, financial factors are changing, and things that influence them. They have no ability to react.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, yeah, I find it fascinating. On top of that, another thing people don't realize, most of these policies they buy are actually filed with the State Department of Insurance. Okay. So when the insurance industry is looking at making changes, the changes happen very slowly, right? They may see things are changing. They may feel underpriced. They may not have time to change their rates, adjust all of the filing, adjust their computer systems with all the, sophisticated consumer quoting software that they run. So what we're seeing right now is actually the insurance companies can't keep up with all these factors. Again, they're happening all at the same time. Bad weather, traffic fatalities, economic conditions that we're still recovering from. And they're actually putting a pause on insurance. So we see it sometimes making the news in states like Florida or California because they're in the news a lot, where an insurance company will stop writing business there or pull out of that state altogether. And we're seeing it even here in Illinois, where insurance companies have just simply stopped writing insurance because they don't have the tools to keep up with these losses. So it's for consumers right now, it can be a time of great duress, right? When they're seeing their insurance policies coming in with big rate increases.
So we've seen some clients go through that in Florida. Is it just based on the hurricanes and all the other concern, or are there other factors too?
Yeah, it's a concern. The hurricanes, those patterns are only getting worse. And then you add on top of it these other situations where we've got delays in construction. You have to think about the tertiary coverages that come with these insurance policies. So even if you have damage to a house, for example, most of your policies are going to provide you with coverage to move into temporary living conditions, to move into a temporary housing, right? So in the past, if you had suffered damage to your house, and the insurance company thought it would take this long, to repair. Now it's going to take this long. They're on the hook for paying for these tertiary or maybe you could say supplemental coverages. And so there's a spillover effect that goes all the way down the line. Same thing with auto insurance. One of our clients recently was driving a car with a full panoramic glass roof. They're out in a hailstorm, unfortunately, while they were driving. There's nowhere they could. Yeah. Oh, the roof completely destroyed by hail while they were driving, shattered glass, things like that. Now they're going to be out of a car for a while. So again, it's not just that we're seeing more of these hail claims that are spilling over to auto as well as home, but then they're going to end up, in a rental car. And if the repairs take longer because of supply chain issues, labor shortages, things like that, you have to understand the insurance company is also paying for more car rental coverage as well. And so it's not just some of these things we see that are big, obvious, big ticket items. It's these little things that the insurance companies really want to make sure you get covered out of pocket, these unforeseen little things on the side, to make sure that when you are suffering a loss, they're covering as much of it as possible, giving you as good of an experience as they possibly can. And those things add up too.
Yeah. Well, I know some of our investors who had wind insurance because they're on the intercoastal, were able to get rid of some of those extra additional policies by just paying off their mortgage. So is that way that some policies require you to, if you have a mortgage, you have to have a policy, but if you don't, you wouldn't need to do it. Is that right?
Yeah, you'll see that the lenders are trying to make sure that their interests are protected, in that if there is damage to a home that they're financing, that you're not just going to get up and walk away, right? And we saw that in the housing collapse of 2008, where people were literally walking away from houses, and then the bank is stuck with a property. What are they going to do with it, right? So you will see that if you have if you financed your home, you will see insurance requirements are there, and that could include the wind insurance or flood insurance, which can be also a very expensive policy. From a risk management standpoint, I would say that I would still encourage people to protect an asset if they believe it's important.
Mhm.
And that's a conversation to have with your insurance agent. Is you may look at, certain types of a loss and how they would affect you and think it may not be important. But again, there's these tertiary or supplemental coverages that can really make a difference to you when you have a claim.
You really can. So, well, good. So, Dave, what would you do? So, someone's looking to buy a home. What would you, considering all these difficult trends in the insurance industry, what would you suggest they do now as far as covering insurance for for the home?
Okay, that is a great question. I'll tell you the number one mistake home buyers make when it comes to insurance. They don't talk to their insurance agent before signing the contract. And I can't emphasize that enough. You want to talk to your insurance agent before you sign the contract. So trends in the insurance industry right now, the insurance companies are losing money. And so when they do that, they do two things. Number one, they tighten up their underwriting guidelines, right? And I'm talking a little bit of insurance techno babble right now. But when I say they tighten up their guidelines, they say, oh, we want to keep as much bad stuff out as we can, right? If this looks like a bad risk, where we're going to have to pay out a bunch of claims, we don't want it. And what they're also doing at the same time is they're giving bigger discounts to preferred customers, situations where they think, hey, we're going to be able to make our money here. So when they look at like an old roof, okay, or an old building, a lot of the insurance companies now won't even write the insurance policy, or they're going to force you to take inferior coverage because of that choice.
Sure.
So if you are looking at house A and house B, all things are being equal, you're not sure which one you want. Before you sign a contract on one of them, call your insurance agent, right? Hey, let's talk about house A. Does this have a wood shake roof, right? Which are very expensive to replace. And most insurance companies now look at the wood shake roof as a very high risk. Some of them won't even insure that house at all. Or
Really?
house B, which has a different roof and it's brand new. How does that present? And a lot of people don't make that call first to their insurance agent. They sign the contract and then they're faced with difficult choices on the homeowner's insurance. And there's another hidden layer beneath this now is a trend for bundling. So most people have heard of like the concept of bundling your auto and home insurance with one insurance company,
Right.
and they're familiar with the savings. There's a movement in our industry to really create an like inextricably intertwined policy experience where your auto, your home, your umbrella are all on one policy. It's one policy number. It's super easy for the customer to manage. And they're just not taking on customers with only an auto or only a home policy. So going back to the scenario of house A and house B, house A is not so desirable on the homeowners. Maybe house B is. The second thing you can get good knowledge from an insurance expert about is what's the auto insurance going to look like? And we've seen scenarios where someone is looking at, we've got to qualify them for a homeowner's policy, and the homeowners we can figure out, but because of their choices on the home, now their auto insurance is significantly higher, right? Because they have less options. So
Right.
when you're looking at that purchase, talk to your agent and say, hey, why don't you take a look at this listing? What basic things do you need to find out about the house? What,
Mhm.
how old is the roof? How old is the furnace? How old is the house? How many options do I have on the home? Because that plays into how many options you have on the auto as well. And so I would say that's a little bit under the hood, but kind of a surprise some people get. And they're under a timeline. They really want that house, right? They're under a timeline to make that purchase. And we do our best to help clean up after the fact. Sometimes it's not pretty, but if I had to give any advice to someone looking at buying a house right now, I would say, please call me first. We don't mind running the quotes through or just giving you general information of what to look at. So you're educated. You can work with your realtor, your real estate professional, and find these things out ahead of time. And it does really work that way with small business as well. We're starting to see a big push for commercial property where the insurance companies are really looking in fine detail at older buildings. So they really want to be working, with those customers. Protective safeguards like sprinkler systems, alarms, things like that are becoming really important. So I would say those are a couple of tips for people who are looking to buy a home or a new building for their business.
So it's really getting complicated enough. You really need to work with an agent that knows all the detail, don't you?
Yeah, I would say looking for an agent who is willing to educate you is extremely important. In today's day and world, there is a lot of information available online. I would certainly encourage people to educate themselves as well and take a look at it. But nothing really can replace, in my opinion, nothing can really replace the experience of working with an agent who gets to know you, gets to know exactly what you're looking for, what's important to you, because these things come out in the fine details of your policy and other facets of your experience, whether it's, how you want to communicate with your agent. Do you like to text? Do you like to email? Do you prefer a phone call or face-to-face meeting? So looking for an agent that is going to spend the time understanding what you want is super important and how you want to get it. And then stays educated. And please, I would ask consumers, once you find an agent that you're comfortable with, let them educate you. TikTok and the other, I know we're doing a podcast. The internet is full of great advice. It doesn't always pertain to you. And we've seen some customers make some mistakes or really kind of push us into, a type of policy or terms and conditions that aren't really in their favor. So just please go into it with an open mind. I'm sure you've seen the same thing, Brian, where a customer really wants you to buy a stock because of something they've seen online. And, you're thinking this may not align with their investment strategy overall, and you can be in a tight spot. So I would just say for consumers out there, find someone you're comfortable with and trust them, and make sure you're doing business with someone who is staying on top of things and staying educated.
Nice. Well, I think that's good advice. So now that we've kind of covered the industry a little bit and understanding all these strange trends, what do you see for the next 2 years, let's say, and then maybe for 5 years, Dave? What does it look like? Will all these policy price increases continue? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I would say for the next, in talking to multiple insurance companies, the consensus is that the next 2 years, we're going to see more of this. So don't be surprised if your auto insurance, if your home insurance is coming in 20, 60, 100% higher than last year. I would say on that, if weather trends continue the way they are, I could see this happening for the next 5 years or so. And the reason for that is the insurance companies just need to adjust their pricing and they need to adjust their coverages. And looking back at the factors we've already, covered, they've got to adjust their computer modeling and their pricing and then change these policies and their pricing with the Department of Insurance. And these things happen slowly over time. The insurance companies, again, they move very slowly. They're going to take some time and make a good decision because they have to remain fiscally responsible, right? They need to keep money on hand to pay for their claims, to fulfill their obligations to their policyholders. So I would say, 2 to 5 years, you'll probably see continued price increases. You're probably going to see the insurance companies pushing towards higher deductibles. You're going to see them shying away from riskier properties. So things homeowners can do to, help themselves would be, the maintenance. If your home appraiser says, hey, this roof is going to need to be replaced in 5 years, plan for that. Get your roof replaced. Look at things like discounts that the insurance companies are starting to offer in terms of telematics for your auto insurance, where there's rewards for good drivers they're out there. Again, kind of under the hood stuff, no pun intended. Smart home technology, battery backups, whole home generators, anything you can do that might reduce the risk for an insurance company. The insurance companies are really looking with finer detail than ever before at finding those preferred customers who are willing to make less risk for the insurance company and doing business with them. So I would say definitely be aware that this is not a short term, this is not a short term phenomenon. I would say this is probably, I hate to coin the phrase, the new norm, but I would say look for this behavior in the marketplace for the next 2 years. Don't be surprised when you see it in the news that the insurance company you're working with has stopped writing home and auto insurance in your state. They may pick it up again in 3 months. They may even sell their entire book of business. And we're starting to see that as well, where some insurance companies are selling off their book of business because it's just not profitable. And they refocus maybe on commercial insurance or something of that nature.
Right. Okay. So lastly, what kind of advice do you have for consumers right now about dealing with all this insurance? You've given us some of it, but what should they think of right now?
The first thing I would advise is not to panic. There's not much they can do about the overall marketplace. Similar to when your financial advisor is talking with you about your long-term investment strategy. And, don't panic when we have a one-day situation in the marketplace. I would say this is everywhere in our industry. So again, number one, find an agent that you're comfortable with, and you've got to make that decision. If you work with an independent insurance agent like us, we're going to do a lot of the work for you. We like holding your hand, and we're going to go out. We're going to work with multiple insurance companies. We're going to bring you multiple quotes. If that's within your comfort zone and you like that hands-on approach from an agent, just be receptive to our ideas. Call us ahead of time. Again, if you're thinking about doing something like buying a car, for example, send us the online listing. You'd be surprised. There are some insurance companies now that actually have a cap on cars, and they won't insure a car if it's over a certain value. Oh yeah, that's a real thing. And think about it. They're with the fatalities and the total losses they're seeing out there right now. Some of the insurance companies are not looking to start insuring these very expensive cars now right out of the gates. Some very fast cars that are out there right now. A lot of the insurance companies now are turning away from those. And so I would say you have to look at your financial priorities and what kind of life experience do you want, right? If you want to go out and buy that super fast car, please don't be surprised if the insurance is very expensive or it has other repercussions down the line. Like, well, we have to move your homeowner's insurance now as well. And so again, I think the message here is just recognize that the insurance industry is not making money right now. And so if you think of something fun, that's not usually something the insurance company wants to get involved with. So a slide at your pool in your backyard, a diving board in the pool at your backyard, those are super fun things. Maybe not so fun for the insurance company. A super fast car that goes 150 miles an hour, maybe not for the insurance company so much. So if you're looking to have those life experiences, and many people are, just please don't be surprised if the insurance companies right now aren't very excited about it. We still have options. We have companies that specifically want to seek out customers like that. Just be prepared and have those conversations ahead of time so that you're informed. And I would say that's the overarching message right now for consumers is please be a little patient. Take the time to be a little bit more educated. Now is not the time to make rash decisions about buying houses or buying cars. Now is the time to take a step back and say, okay, I'm going to be spending more money. We know this. I'm going to be taking on more risk myself. So how can I buy the best possible insurance policy? If I'm going to be spending more, maybe this is counterintuitive, but if I'm going to be spending more anyway, maybe I really look and make sure this policy is really going to work for me and get the best possible policy. I don't know if that makes sense, but I would say, okay, thank you. Yeah, I would say this is a time right now to educate yourself and be patient.
That's great. Yeah, this is a difficult time. It was brought on by the pandemic and now the inflation and all the other things that are going on. So it's good to hear from a real pro about, auto, home, all those subjects, the property casualty market for consumers, where it's really feels like it's a little out of control, to know that there is a plan that you still can navigate within it. We're going to pay a little bit more because trends that are out of our control, but you can find ways to minimize it then, Dave, can't you?
You can. And I do want to emphasize that the message here is not to give up. It is one of the things we do for our customers, with their permission, we'll remarket their account, meaning as your renewal is coming up and we know these trends are happening, we're looking for new insurance companies to work with all the time who fit the mold of what our customers expect. And,
right.
We will do our due diligence for you. And so I would say, it's not totally hopeless. It may not be a rosy picture, but you can have a little bit of control over it yourself. I think that's a great point, Brian.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you. This has been a good interview, and I think everybody will be all the benefit from what we learned here today. So thanks for being with us today, Dave, on today's Market Explained.
Brian, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll leave it here. We'll be back again with a market commentary episode, and then back and forth between market and economy commentary, and then interviews with great guys like Dave Broz. So thanks, everybody, for being with us. We'll leave it there, and we'll look forward to the next episode of today's Market Explained on the next 2 weeks.